Hi guys, and welcome back. It's now the 18th of December, and we're closing in on the end. And I'm just excited to see how all the puzzle pieces fit together. I know I said I read the story many times, and I have, but it's been a while. So I'm just gonna jump straight to it. So I think today I'm just gonna start. Enjoy. The Christmas Mystery by Jostein Gaarder. December the 18th. Papa hadn't liked it that Joachim opened the magic advent calendar door before he and Mamma got up. On December the 18th, he woke Joachim. That day, there was a picture of a rod with a shining gold ball on the end. That's a scepter, exclaimed Mamma. Kings and emperors use rods like that as a symbol of dignity. The round ball is probably meant to be the sun. Joachim unfolded the thin piece of paper which had fallen out of the advent calendar and began to read to Mamma and Papa. They sat on either side of him on his bed. A strange procession swept through Thrace towards Constantinople on the Golden Horn between the Sea of Marmara and the Black Sea. They were going to Bethlehem. 500 years had passed since Jesus was born in a stable, was swaddled in cloth, and placed in a manger because there was no room for Mary and Joseph in the inn. But that story was familiar all over the world. They stopped in front of one of the city gates, which were guarded by soldiers. The soldiers drew their swords and raised their spears when the first sheep reached the gate. Then the angel Zephyriel flew up beside the sheep and placed himself between them and the soldiers. "Be not afraid," he said. "We are on our way to Bethlehem to pay homage to the Christ child. You must allow us to pass." The soldiers dropped their weapons and threw themselves on the ground. One of them signaled that the procession could pass through the city gate. Soon the pilgrims were inside the solid city walls. It was early in the morning, and the city was not yet awake. The procession of pilgrims stopped on a hill with a good view of the harbour and the Bosporus, which divides Europe from Asia. The straits were so narrow that they could see across to the other side. "The time is 495, said Epheriel. "Originally the city was called Byzantium, but in the year of our Lord 330 it was made the capital of the Roman Empire by the Emperor Constantine. The city was built to be the new Rome, and it was soon given the name Constantinople. In just under 1,000 years, in 1453, the city will be conquered by the Turks, and they will give it the name Istanbul." Had the soldiers heard about Jesus? Elizabeth wanted to know. "We can take that for granted. The Emperor Constantine made Christianity a lawful religion in the Roman Empire as early as 313. He was baptized himself just before he died. Some years later, in 380, Christianity became the state religion throughout the Roman Empire." "How do you remember all the dates?" asked Elizabeth. "I just have to follow the angel watched," replied Epheriel. "Since we don't have to bother around second, minutes, hours, and dates, it's not so difficult to remember the years. Another date we must take note of is the year 395. Exactly 100 years ago. That was when the Roman Empire was divided, and Constantinople became the capital of the Eastern Roman Empire." The angel Zephyriel came up. He pointed at a beautiful church. "That church is called Basilica," he said, "and was built in honor of God's wisdom by the Emperor Constantine. In a few years it will be destroyed by fire, but on the same spot the lovely Hagia Sophia will be built. It will stand as a landmark for centuries." Quirinius cleared his throat. "We must get across the Bosporus," he said. "Then it's not very far to Syria. Dixie!" Joshua thumped his shepherd's crock on the ground. "To Bethlehem! To Bethlehem!" They ran down through the city, and before long were standing on the farthest point on the Golden Horn. At the edge of the pier they were met by a dignified man in colourful clothes, with a glittering spectre in his hand. In the other hand he was holding a thick book. Imperial was already prepared to say, "Fear not," but the regal-looking man paid no attention to the cherub. He came straight towards them. "I am the Emperor Augustus, and I will accompany you across the Bosporus. I order you to accept this gesture on my part without any unpleasant protests." He pointed out a ship with several large sails. The sheep were already jumping on board. "Then you are one of us," said Ephriel. Elizabeth turned to the angel and said, "I didn't know the Emperor Augustus was Christian." A mysterious smile passed over the angel's face. The old Roman emperor has been a part of the Christmas gospel as a kind of stowaway for many centuries, and God's kingdom is open to everyone, even people who travel without a ticket. Elizabeth thought the angel's words made heaven seem even bigger than she had imagined. She hid what he had said in her heart. Soon the pilgrims had crossed the Bosporus. As they landed, Elizabeth spoke to the Roman emperor and asked what kind of book he had under his arm. She thought he was going to say it was the Bible, or at least a hymn book, but the Emperor Augustus said, "It is the sacred census." He said no more. He was so handsome and so proud, and he clearly did not like talking too long at a time, at least not to little girls. Elizabeth thought that was odd. Surely it wasn't every day a Roman emperor was able to meet a girl who had run off after a lamb who had escaped from a big store in Norway and headed for Bethlehem. Joshua struck the ground with his crook and reminded them that they had to leave. But they hadn't gone very far before they stopped on a hill above the town of Chalcedon. The town was teeming with priests. They were like a swarm of bees. Elizabeth was astonished, in fact almost scared, to see so many priests at once. "Fear not," said the angel Ephriel. "The time is 451 years after the birth of Jesus, and the biggest conference in the history of the Christian church is being held down here. The town is called Chalcedon, and priests and bishops from the whole of the Christian world are here." "What are they going to talk about?" Elizabeth wanted to know. The angel laughed. "They're trying to reach an agreement about correct Christian doctrine." "Are they going to agree?" "After a long discussion, they'll finally make a declaration that Jesus was both God and man. But they're discussing many other things as well. Some of them are so eager to determine the correct belief that in their haste they forgot what is most important." "And what is that?" asked Elizabeth. "That Jesus came into the world to teach people to be kind to one another. No other lesson is more difficult for a human being to learn, but no other lesson is more important. It's not as important, for example, to know how many angels there are in heaven, or whether God has a splinter in his little finger." "Has he really got one?" "It doesn't matter, I told you. It's more important to see the beam in your own eyes."